Hello, everyone. Welcome to the P4 Workshop 2021. My name is Carmelo Cascona. I'm a technical lead at ONF, where I'm responsible for data plane development using P4. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Frederic Louis from Renater. Frederic started his career in 1988 as a software and network engineer. He joined Renater in 2007 as a network architect. Since 2013, he's leading innovation activities and technical coordination for many Xi'an projects. Today, Frederic will present RARE, a project that aims at building a modern open router platform that can be quickly adapted to meet the numerous challenging use cases of research and education networks. So without further ado, welcome Frederic. Please take it away.
Thank you, Carmelo. Hello, everyone. My name is Frédéric Louis, and I'm working for Renater, the French Education and Research, and we have prepared a set of slides with Csaba from KIFU, the Hungarian NRN, who is working for the Hungarian NRN, sorry. And these slides are related to a project called RARE, which acronym stands for Router for Academia, Research and Education. So basically, what is RARE? The mission statement of RARE is to create one familiar routing platform that is able to, from which we are able to instantiate multiple solutions. Each solution is targeting various use cases that you can find in the RNA landscape. So basically, it boils down to identifying the three components that are composing a routing stack, which is the control plane, a data plane. Here it is a programmable data plane. And we are trying to stitch them, these two building blocks by creating an interface between the two. The result would be to create a feature-rich routing platform that is able to run at various hardware line rate. Hardware line rate is very important. We will see that later. The goal is to, again, have a flexible, programmable router with the possibility to switch control plane, but also data plane, and you will see how. So why creating something like that now? It's because since the last decade, we have seen the emergence of new control plane software with different mission statements. BIRD, for example, is widely used in the Internet Exchange Point, and the B stands for BGP. ExaBGP also deals with Internet Exchange Point and is working particularly in UK and deals with BGP. In parallel, we have the new we had new technologies, new kernel bypass technologies like GPDK and P4, which get more and more mature. In a sense that now we can really use these two components, the control plane and the data plane, to create a network operating system. And we are starting to see new NOS emergence like Arista OS Sonic, free FRR routing. And we really think that it is the really good time to start this activity. In our case, we are using FreeRouter for three reasons. The first reason is that the project was set to last only 24 months since 2019. And the idea to have the lead developer into our group was a blessing, because we moved forward so fast that we managed to reach a very interesting result. The second reason is that, as per our mission statement, the idea is to create a routing platform. And if you look at FreeRouter is the most routing stack that is proposing all the feature that a telco service provider can dream of. You have everything inside. And that's why it was really interesting for us to use FreeRouter. The third reason is a totally biased opinion from my part. It's a personal opinion. I'm using FreeRouter since 2015, and it's a very rock solid, stable routing stack. I'm using personally in a Kubernetes cluster as a BGP route protector, and it's works flawlessly. So I was talking about use case, but let me give you some typology. The use case in the RNE is a basic network use case that you will find everywhere. You have three categories. Each category encompasses different role in the network area. In the core, on the right, you have the core category. In the core, you will see packets that are switched at a very high speed, at high level of traffic, like multiple hundred gig or terabits of traffic. So in this case, you will find all the use case, the role that corresponds to label switch, pure label switch router or label edge router. In the middle, you have the aggregation. The aggregation layer is here to aggregate, as its name implies, aggregate all traffic belonging to a specific community. So you can have all the traffic that is belonging to a data center or a specific VPN or a specific community of interest within the customer base. On the left, you have the access layer, and this is usually where you can see a lot of small equipment, so small office, home office equipment that are establishing tunnel toward the aggregation layer in order to create a community ready to be consolidated and aggregated to be sent toward the core. So, of course, all of this have to be IPv4 and now IPv6 compliant. In terms of anatomy, this is, in terms of use case, this is a typical anatomy of a research project. You have here the big instrument, okay, that is able to generate a tremendous amount of traffic. On the left, for example, you have here a telescope from the Rubin Observatory in Chile, part of the LSST project that is set to that is expected to generate 20 terabytes of traffic per night. So the idea of that is that all of these instruments are generating raw data. And then each time there is an experiment that is triggered, these raw data are conveyed in parallel all around the world and in a distributed computing center for data processing, because there is no, in this case, you are confronted to the fact that the hardware disks are too slow to write disk and process disk. So the idea is to leverage the network and spread all these data in parallel computing center in the world. And then after the processing, you have some very good reports. And this is where the scientists that I call eyeballs, are using, in order to derive new KPI and new reports related to the experiment they wanted to convey. This is quite interesting. When you zoom in, actually, this is the same picture as before, but in reality, in the center, you have the big research and education highways, which are pan-intercontinental network. You have GEO in Europe, Internet 2 in ESNet in the US, Tain3 in Asia, Red Clara in Latin America, Ubuntu and Wacran in Africa. And then you have the NRENs that are connected, that are aggregation layer, that are part of the aggregation layer where you can find the instrument and also some computing center. So this is the idea of the RAR project, is to fit into this type of requirement and experiment. So you have guessed it, RAR is for the RNE, okay? But in fact, it's for everyone, because if you look at the model, it's the chair model is not something that is proper to the RNA system. So in that case, you can benefit, everyone can benefit from an open platform that is programmable. And that is very interesting for emerging NREN, where the OPEX is, I won't say not affordable, but that is that it is easier to have OPEX than CAPEX. And if for any reason you are in a company that has this DIY mindset, you can even create your own routing platform, as the big players are doing, like Facebook or Google and other big player like Microsoft with Sonic. So RAR is also very interesting for interconnecting a data center. And what we have seen so far also recently is there is a big movement during over the last 5 years in interconnecting the schools, the primary schools, with within the NRN network in order to really catalyze digital not experiment but teaching. Sorry. And last but not least, this is the example you saw in the previous slide related to global research project connectivity. So whether it is a giant telescope that will provide an unparalleled view of the galaxy, this view will be in the form of raw data that are processed in parallel. And of course, and in this case, the network behind the scene needs to be very, very powerful. So this, in the end, has very positive societal consequences, and it's of course it changed the current way for telco to provide the network services, but in the long run, it's something that is quite positive because the users are also now able to connect their application close to the data plane, which was not the case obviously before. So in our case, what we managed to create is to have a BMV2 image, a BMV2 target image, in order to verify all our protocol with real, I would say, hardware representative hardware. We have also a barefoot BF-switch-D target, where we were about to acquire some FPGA card, but it happened that we had some difficulties to get one. So if just in any case you have access to FPGA cards with P4 implemented, just let us know. And in order to support more use case in our context, we developed two backend. One backend is using libpcap and the other is using DPDK. So in terms of development, how do we proceed? Actually, we have the same free router and the same common APH. That is strictly the same for the old data plane. And we have a candidate data plane with his specific interface. In our case, we started developing with free router, this common API message, and then we use BMV2 that is using P4 runtime API. In order to port our code to a real hardware like the Wedge or the APS2556X, we decided to use Tofino, and the Tofino target has a specific northbound interface called BF runtime, which is the gRPC interface. But if you look at it, the same common message is used. So this is this can be switched seamlessly. And same story for DPDK data plane. The DPDK data plane has a specific story because in our case, as we said, we wanted to also address a smaller capacity data rate like multiple 10 gig or multiple gig. And having a P4 switch was not obviously the right choice for that. And we have looked at different targets like P4 ELTE project. We also had a look to XDP, and actually we just decided to create our RAR P4 emulation layer in order to switch the packet as it is in the case for the other target. So the BMV2 target is used for code and algorithm validation. It's very useful because you start sketching your algorithm with P4. We are validating this code with Barefoot, where we make sure that all the code we are injecting is also optimized for the Tofino, simply because Tofino has more constraint in terms of in order to ensure 100 gig switch capacity, packet switching capacity. And then we are using the DPDK. We are creating the DPDK code so that we can port this to a smaller target that has smaller data rate transfer. When we develop our code, each time there is a commit, actually, we are triggering a series of tests. We have So, for example, every day after each day, when someone has finished his commit, the test framework is triggered, and we are triggering 2,300 features that corresponds to 2,300 tests. And essentially here in this case, we have the WireGuard support for IPv6, and then the test is described here. So we are instantiating two routers. We are declaring the WireGuard private and public key in between, and then we are checking that the connectivity is okay between the two. So this is done automatically. So why we are doing this is simply because we are not a lot of people, and doing regression test is very costly. So everything is automated and for the greater good for us. Among these 2,300 tests, we have 300 data plane tests. What does it mean? These tests are really specific to the P4, BMV2, P4 Tofino, and DPDK. And it's the list seems really small here, but in reality, we have really 300 tests. I will let you see that in the project page. If you have any idea and about new feature to implement, something that you want to see that you will use right away, feel free to reach us in our IRC channel, FreeRouter, and you can submit your idea. I'm not guaranteeing that we'll take it right away, but we will take it for sure into account. So the code is validated into real switch in using the Tofino platform. And essentially here we have a bunch of switches that are deployed in Europe and in various continents. So here we have a core European géant, a core European, I would say P4 lab that is in Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Budapest, Poznan. And here, these are the leg to Latin America, to North America, and the US globally. France, Netherlands, UK, Ireland, Spain, and Switzerland, where you can see you will see the biggest particle accelerator that is in the CERN. We have here a Spirent box that is used for us for doing for establishing RFC test conformance test, which is great because we we had the possibility to verify that our code was is compliant to RFC. And this is the particularity of this test is that it can be sliced. And when I mean sliced, is that everything is based on a VRF, so we can have an infinite amount of arbitrary topology. So how all of these are managed? Basically, we have the P4 lab here. We have created an out-of-band management and that has in a specific firewall here. Here we are establishing a tunnel and toward a Kubernetes cluster that is essentially that has a front end. And as a CIO, I can deploy any type of service that will manage this network. In that situation, in that context, we have deployed a Prometheus agent, and we are using Grafana for visualization. We have more agents available like netconf and also streaming telemetry compatible with Cisco. So we are ready to be interconnected to any type of management system. Here I have put for reference all the Grafana graphic visualization diagramming graph that you can download it. It's open source, so you feel free to use them. And key takeaway, we are ready for to roll into production. Everything is automated in terms of testing. We are using Spirent for RFC test conformance. We have done some profile calibration for specifically for Tofino, because in Tofino you can't have the whole, you have a specific amount of resources that is not infinite. And the DPDK flavor is operational, and I'm using it since 2 years ago, 2 years ago, yes, as my personal home router with a 1 gig FTTH connection. We have production We have DPD also in production in University of Murcia in Spain, in Hungary, and we are planning some production deployment in France. Now let's get practical and let me present you some real life use case. So here, this is my own personal small office, home office router. And here, this is a router that has a 6 gig port with Intel i 211 chip that are run by DPDK. So without DPDK, this box is running at 100 CPU usage. With DPDK, it's a steady 20% usage. So this router is able to run everything every type of feature you could imagine, like MPLS, segment routing, WireGuard channel, OpenVPN channel. It can do everything. As it is powered by DPDK, there is no particular limit as you can see with the other P4 hardware. This is a BRA BNG LNS router. The idea here is that in the aggregation layer, you can deploy this box and aggregate all the traffic with for example, as a L2TP server. So the idea is that the versatility of the port in terms of interface will help you to aggregate a lot of type of traffic ranging from 1 gig, 10, 25 to 100 gig. This is an LSR label switch router that can run into the core that has 4 directions, each direction having 800 gig capacity, which is tremendous for a P core. We can reuse the same box with Tofino as a provider edge. It's a label edge router, and in this case, you have 2 directions that has 800 gig capacity, and which gives you 16 100 gig port left to connect your user. This is great, for example, if you are a very demanding user who would like to have their own provider edge router in your network. This is a server that can be used, for example, let's assume that you have a 64 gig of RAM. What you can do with this type of server is that you can run a BGP route reflector able to cope with 16 full routing table at the same time, IPv4, IPv6. It's a very powerful BGP route reflector. We did some tests, and this platform is able to relearn the full routing table in 13 seconds, which is quite impressive, actually. As in terms of convergence, you won't lose any, you won't have a lot of downtime. This is the same server, but now that is using the DPDK flavor, but that can run at a slower line rate, but can act as a provider edge router. Of course, it will run to a couple of 10 gig or a couple of 100 gig, but you can connect this as in a router on a stick fashion to a switch to a basic layer 2 switch, and then you have a whole small PE that is able to run in the metropolitan area network. This is a private. This is the private peering, the 100 gig private peering use case, where actually here. This is the main important box. This box can be used to aggregate private peering and still maintain 2 direction with 400 gig for redundancy, which is providing a 1:3 ratio in terms of aggregation. So what does it mean? It means that you are able to aggregate 24 ports to 24 peers at 100 gig at a very competitive price. Again, the sky is the limit, and this is limited by our creativity. One of our, I won't bother you with all with this whole list, but our friend, for example, from the RAR team, Xaba, is using this as in order to regulate the temperature at home. So basically, there is a layer 2 MAC that is detected, and once he's leaving his house, the MAC disappears, and then the thermostat is regulating the temperature, is lowering this. This is not a big deal when you have a small home, but imagine you are in charge of a small huge campus in the US, for example, and you can imagine the benefit you can have with such type of intelligent network able to detect or not very some traffic and do some actions to upon the number of traffic you can see in the network. Nothing is perfect. There is room for improvement. What we can, one thing we actually need help is network management and more importantly, flow monitoring. Everything, we have all the probes ready, but we need to have representative work with external analytics blocks like Elasticsearch, Kibana, that will be able to consume all the INT data and streaming telemetry data the box can send. So final words, open network programmability with P4 is a very interesting concept that opens the door to the data plane for the user. We really think that it's also the moment to redefine what is network management and try to progress and forget about what we were doing over the last 2 decades using technology like SNMP. This is, I really think, the future. However, the problem with INT and telemetry is the explosion of data that we will have to handle at the network management system level. So this is this is great, but why are we doing this? It's simply because P4 will help you, and this programmability will help you to deploy more feature faster, better, and provide a kind of a rolling release update that that can work, that can be continuously integrated and continuously deployed. 20 years ago, it was not the case. I was discussing with one of my CEO, and he just mentioned that network services between the idea and landing a service would take 8 months. Now 8 months is dramatically long in our case. So we really need this to do things better, faster. Acknowledgement, thanks to, I would like to thank Géant and the European Commission for believing in us, FreeRouter for providing this extraordinary piece of code, and that corresponds to an unparalleled Swiss Army knife. P4 group, community, DPDK, Intel, APS network for giving us access to hardware, and all I would say the community behind Linux, Debian, TCP, and OpenJDK, with whom none of this could have happened. You have some useful links where you can find the control plane project page, the data plane project page, a blog where I'm publishing some interesting article if you are interested in knowing more about how to configure your router, for example, at home. We have a configuration guide, and you can reach us using a RAR user mailing list. RAR developer, if you want to get into if you want to get on board in programming P4 and also the control plane with us, and feel free to follow us in Twitter and reach us in our IRC FreeRouter channel. Last but not least, you can feel free to also check out the code, test it, use it, and provide us feedback. For the future, in our case, the project will last 28 months till end of 2022. We are striving to reach production status and become a successful open source project. The idea here is to extend our hardware compatibility list, add new target, provide new ideas, and there is an interesting idea related to NICs. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. The idea would be to be able to switch distribution on the fly and switch the whole software with few commands. Thank you.
Thanks, Frederick, for a nice presentation. Very interesting project. I have a few questions.
Yes.
So the first one, it's something you mentioned at the beginning, Sonic. So I mean, some people in the P4 community are looking at Sonic as a routing control plane for P4 targets. As a matter of fact, there is a P4 pipeline that is known to work well with Sonic. It's called Side.P4. I was wondering, how does the Rare project compare to Sonic?
Well, thank you for the question. It's a non-trivial question because most of the people would think that we are interchangeable and that we have the same objective, which is actually not the case. If you look at the names of both projects, Sonic is the C stands for the cloud, and Rare stands for a router. And allow me this comparison, and maybe you are very well placed to understand that. It's like having Open Daylight and ONOS. One is for the WAN, and one is for the data center. And Sonic, for me, it's the same. Sonic and Rare is the same. We are two projects that are totally complementary. I mean, we complement each other. And the good news with Sonic is that we consider Sonic as, I would say, like our elder brother, showing us the way on how to make an open source project. Because again, we started in 2019 with nothing, and Sonic was already there. And it's a good news for us to have a project like Sonic to show us the way on how to become more important. And if we manage to maintain this idea on complementing each other, that is a great way to go, because we will progress at the same time and try to fit together. One thing that is important also is that we might have some overlap in terms of feature with Sonic, with BGP, for example, or other feature. But if you look at the history of the lessons learned in the internet, having the choice is good. I'm not sure if you remember, but in 2010, we have a famous vendor that has a bug in his BGP stack, which induce a breakage in a fraction of the internet. Just a small BGP attribute that was not implemented correctly, and some carrier grade router were rebooting. And you know what? Next year we have the same story with another vendor. Another well-known vendor, which whose name starts with a J. The one before started with a C. And so if, and to be honest with you, I did not check if existing stacks like ExaBGP or Bird was behaving the same. But having the choice is good, because sometimes it can save you.
Absolutely, absolutely agree with you. I think the choice is a good thing. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I believe Sonic and Rare serve similar but different use cases. Talking about use cases and talking about P4, I was looking at your P4 code for both BMV2 and Tofino, and it looks like you have quite a complex P4 program today that implements the basic routing IPv4, IPv6 capabilities, and on top of that, you build your use cases. There is support for different encapsulation protocols, MPLS, VXLAN, PPPoE, etc. You have support for QoS, NATing, etc. So some P4 developers in the community complain about the fact that the language has some limitations when it comes to composing different features together in one pipeline. And this is especially true when the number of people contributing to the same P4 program is more than one or a few developers. So in your experience, what is your experience with developing such a complex pipeline? Can you share some insights on how you managed to go from simple routing to adding this in composing, so many features in one P4 program?
Okay. First of all, one thing that is very important is that we had in our team the free router control plane. So everything related to the control plane and tied to the RFC is very well understood and digested. And this is where the complexity is at the control plane level. At the data plane level, you really have to think about two things. The first thing is that for BMV2, it's not the case, but with Tofino, you have to accept that your packet will have to be forwarded at 100 gig capacity. And with Tofino, it will have to be forwarded at 400 gig. When you forward a packet at this speed, you have to have compromise. And of course, you have to study, to do your homework and study. So this is done. And what we have achieved is that usually what we are doing is that we are creating the algorithm in BMV2, which help us to validate the code, how the packet should be parsed, how it should be forwarded to which, I would say, ingress object in P4. But then when we are reaching Tofino, it's like riding a Formula One with a very small trunk, And then you have to think about, okay, now I had a 4x4 car with BMV2 with an infinite amount of memory, TCAM, whatever. Everything was working great. But then you have a Formula One, and then you really need to make attention to that. And this is where Intel helped us a lot with understanding how the compiler was working, how we need to make fit into 12 stage, our code into 12 stage, and how to do that. And if you look at the code, at the P4 code, it has a specific structure, specific name that we came up, and people that comes from anywhere from the world can understand the P4 code and say, oh, this is where I need to put my code. And this is quite modular and easy. I won't say that the P4 code is easy, but I would say that P4 as a domain-specific language needs to stay simple. And in the end, whatever you are using, whatever you are implementing in terms of routing protocol, BGP, OSPF, segment routing, whatever, actually it boils down switching a packet that you receive from an ingress interface that should reach an egress interface. And if you think, and if you really isolate the problem at this domain-specific language purpose, you can do a lot of things. And of course, having Tofino 2 or other target that provide more stages, will be very great because we can do more things. We will avoid to recirculate the packet, for example. If you have multicast, for example, as soon as you are implementing multicast, the egress stage is very important because everything is done at the egress stage, cloning, replication. And of course, it will be better to have more RAM, but it helps us to also do the things right. I mean, in terms of packet forwarding. So it's kind of a struggle to make things work in Tofino. But in the end, it's the right thing because if it works with Tofino, it will work with BMV2.
Right. Yes, it sounds like that today there is still a lot of manual process involved in when moving our P4 programs from behavioral model to Tofino. It would be nice, or other hardware targets would be nice to have more intelligent compilers, able to fit all the features we need in the limited hardware resources, but it's unclear whether this will be feasible in the future and whether it makes sense in the first place. It sounds like humans will be required for some time to optimize P4 programs to run at the fastest speed possible. One last question, since we've been talking about P4. What is your wish list for the evolution of the P4 language and its tool chain? In your experience when working with the Rare project, is there any missing feature in the language that you think will make things easier for Rare?
Yes, actually, I was talking about something. Sometimes, you receive a packet, and the definition, the protocol, the control plane definition is not clear about what this packet is. Parsing the header is not sufficient. So what you have to do is to parse the first layer of header, and then you have to recirculate this packet into the pipeline, and then you are losing them sometimes. I don't have any wish list in terms of object we can implement at the P4 level, but however, having the possibility to have parallel header evaluation in order to synchronize the packet processing into the pipeline would be great. But it's a wish list. I'm not sure how it can be achieved, but this is a real problem. And you have protocols like SRv6 where you have a header that is big. It can be big. You have to really make sure that this. How do you process like that? So the idea is really to make sure that the P4 language can give you all the weapons to tackle this type of packet uncertainties, packet processing uncertainties that will help you to process the packet and avoid recirculation. Because recirculation imply that you have to divide your packet processing by 2 simply.
Right. So it sounds like more powerful parsing capabilities would be nice to have. All right. Thanks, Frederick, for taking the time and for the nice presentation. Thanks to the audience for watching, and make sure to check out other content from the P4 Workshop 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.